I mean, you got to try to find him in transition, and be there on the catch, and then try to keep him off the foul line. He's going to take a bunch of shots. We would like him to take the shots we want him to take instead of the shots he wants to take, and that's something that's relatively challenged. But Champagne's playing great basketball, and I was always impressed with him. A year ago, was incredibly impressed with his progress from his freshman to his sophomore year, and obviously he hasn't slowed down as he's moved into his junior year.
Is there some concern given how good St. John's is at forcing turnovers and the troubles you guys have had?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a concern, and we're young, we're working on it. In some ways, it's as a coach, I think you have to be careful how much you talk about it, because at the end of the day, I've got a lot of young guys that while they think they probably have it figured out, there's probably some insecurities in there and a lack of confidence, and the last thing they need to feel is that their head coach doesn't believe they can handle that pressure. So, we'll continue to work at it, but I also don't want it to be a theme that they're hearing every single day.
You guys obviously had a lot of success with them over the years, but these kids don't know anything about that, so it puts all the pressure on the coaches, right?
Yeah, I mean, St. John's is good. Mike, he's coached 19, 20 years. He's never had a losing season. I coached against him in the Big 12 when he was at Mizzou and I was at Iowa State. So I've known him a long time. His guys play extremely hard for him. It's a very unorthodox system and style. The pressure comes from a lot of different places sometimes when you don't expect it. And then offensively, they play with a lot of freedom and great spacing and great pace. So we're going to have our hands full. There's no question, but it's going to be good to be back in this building. Been a while.
Are you expecting the fans to be a little amped up since it's been over a month?
I'm a little amped up to be back in here, so I hope they are. It's been a long time, a very rare, unique circumstances this year. Last year, we had the COVID stuff, but we really didn't miss anything. So we didn't really have to experience this as a staff a year ago. And just how that upsets your flow and your rhythm, and you lead up to a game and then you kind of start over and you lead up to the next game with how you plan your practices. And when you don't have games, that can be challenging. And obviously for a young team, it's been hard, but these guys have stuck with it pretty well.
The one thing about Xavier, you guys shot 50%. You got a lot of really good looks. So you kind of blend that in with the 21 turnovers. Does that kind of play into how you're approaching it with this team, knowing that, Hawkins was like, yeah, we were close on a lot of those passes. It was maybe the right decision, just not executed.
Yeah, I snuck down with some friends after that game and went and watched Doug's game Saturday night in San Antonio. And I was watching the film in the back of the airplane with a friend of mine, and we're 10 and a half minutes into the game, and we're up 22-16, and we have 2 turnovers. So at the hardest part of the game, where Xavier's bringing the most heat and they're amped up, we handled the pressure just fine. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it was just kind of a comedy of errors in terms of the types of turnovers. They're really not things you can practice. Like we've just made some bad reads and threw one into the 6th row on a skip pass, and so some of it's correctable, some of it's going to just come with experience and understanding what you're looking for. But there were parts of that game we did a great job. And the other unfortunate thing, it's not one guy. If it's 1 or 2 guys, you can kind of really work with those guys or get them off the floor some and settle them down. But when it happens, it seems to kind of permeate through our entire lineup.
With that 18-19 team, it seemed like a lot of their errors were more mental than physical. And then the year later, the execution, especially down the stretch of games, was really good. Do you remember what the crossing the finish line was in terms of getting them over that last mental hurdle?
Yeah, but some of it's still physical with this group yet because of their lack of strength, especially when you get caught in a trap of some sort. If you're not strong enough to kind of take those bumps, and maybe you're handing out the physicality instead of just on the receiving end of it. So there's 2 pieces to that, especially with some of the younger guys that need to get a little bit stronger, and I think that'll help in itself. But the mental piece of it as well. You want to be aggressive, and as soon as there's a lack of aggressiveness, especially against a team like St. John's, they're going to be foaming at the mouth and ready to come at us. So you want to have an aggressive style and approach to what you're doing. You don't want the guys back in their heels and playing tentative.
With the academic semester back, what do you do to make sure the young kids understand how to balance all that out?
Yeah, they went through the first semester, so they get it. They went through November, December, juggling classes and finals and games. So it's just getting back into the flow, and I think we'll be able to do that. With our game canceled last week, obviously, they had all week to kind of get acclimated into the first week of school. So I think they understand that and they can handle it.
With the next 4 games at home, tentatively, just a good chance maybe to kind of get on the groove, build some momentum, stack up some more.
Yeah, we're just taking one at a time. Like this, there's nothing easy in this league this year, and I think you've seen that with a team like Seton Hall going to DePaul and losing that. St. John's takes UConn to overtime at UConn. So throw out the records, and throw out looking far enough ahead to think you can win 4 out of 5. You got to try to win the next one, and especially a unique style like St. John's, and then DePaul with Coach Stubblefield this year playing totally different than how they played in the past. So different preparations. Both teams are going to provide a lot of pressure and try to take some chances. So our focus is just trying to get this one played Wednesday night and hopefully get a good crowd in here to support us.
Do one more.
The Xavier game this past was the first time you got to 70 possessions since BYU. I was wondering if you saw any reasons why you were able to get to that tempo where you like it.
Well, not a lot of teams run with us, and Xavier's one of the quicker playing teams in the league, and St. John's is the quickest playing team in the league. So that's not going to be a problem there. And I think we found some things in transition, both inside and on the perimeter, that were good for us. And I thought we did a good job with Xavier's transition game in the first half. We weren't quite as effective in the second half. But we're going to do what we do. But when teams slow it down to crawl on the other end, and we're going to bleed that shot clock pretty low, the possessions are going to be lower. So obviously that's the way we'd prefer to play. And then obviously at the end when we were behind, we're trying to extend the game, and that added 5 or 6 possessions. And we did some good things there to give ourselves a chance, cut it to 5 there late. So, but that's our obviously our preferred style to play. Thanks, guys.
I think this is about the best opportunity for a home game we could have this year. Gives us a little confidence at home, playing in front of our home crowd. We got to have this one, especially after 2 disappointing road games. We got to come back and be ready for a home game tomorrow night.
When you think about playing St. John's, I don't know if you've seen them yet, but they're never put away. They always have some runs in them, no matter how late the game's getting, no matter the deficit. What's the key to just staying present, just kind of forming a war and making sure you're executing, because they're always a run away from changing the complexion of the game?
Being consistent with what you do. Offensively, you got to meet every pass against them. You got to pump fake before you make a pass. Almost going back to the fundamentals against them. Ensuring every pass is delivered safe. That's going to be huge for us in this game, especially with the turnovers that we've had the last few games, where it's going to be a challenge for us offensively. But then defensively, we just got to guard it. Even if we do have a turnover here or there, we've got to make sure we get back on defense, set our defense and guard. And I think that'll set our offense up for a lot of success.
I know it's normally a one-game-at-a-time mentality, but that become even more of an emphasis given the way that things have gone with games getting canceled and postponed?
I think that just makes you live more in the present and focus more and more on each individual practice that you have. Because like you said, with all the games we've had canceled, you gotta be in the moment and present in practice. You can't be daydreaming about a game 2 days from now when you don't know if you're going to for sure have that game. So I think that's definitely made the intensity and the urgency of each practice a little higher.
2 more for me. You've been doing this academic thing longer than most of these guys put together. 3 home games out of 4, that kind of thing, or an extra week off, start the semester. What do you do academically to make sure this is when you get it?
That's when you got to look at your schedule and you got to kind of realize you got to stay on top of it. You can't have an afternoon where you're like, I don't feel like doing homework today. No, you got to, especially those younger kids, they got to be in there looking ahead and realizing that, if I do my work early, it'll make life 2-3 weeks from now easier when you're on the road and you don't feel like doing homework after a road game.
Was it a nice feeling just as a team to turn over side to shoot it better at Xavier, given how you guys shot it at Villanova?
Yeah, you look at our shooting percentage, how many times we scored when we didn't turn the ball over. That's very encouraging. But some of that's going to come to defense and making sure our defense is setting up our offense. But being back at home, I feel like will be really good for this group. Thank you, guys.